Stein's end stress. Because the point in most stories is usually at the end. For instance, when you're telling a joke. When is the punchline? Early on? No. It's at the end. And you tell everything you do in that story to shed light on that punchline or at the end. And so perhaps we will learn more about the meaning of this parable cluster if we will read the end. In fact, there are two sections of this story that I have not read to you yet. I did not read you the beginning, and I have not read you the end. I believe there's a clue to the point of this parable cluster by examining the beginning and the end, and not just looking at the three stories. Let's look now at Luke 15:25 through 32. We leave the party for just a moment and we meet the older son. Now his older son was in the field, and as he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he summoned one of the servants and asked what these things meant. Your brother is here, he told him, and your father has slaughtered the fatted calf because he has him back safe and sound. Then he became angry and he did not want to go in. So his father came out and pleaded with him, but he replied to his father, Look, I've been slaving many years for you, and I've never disobeyed your orders, yet you never gave me a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has devoured your assets with prostitutes, you slaughtered the fatted calf for him. Son, he said to him, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. That's true not only figuratively, but literally. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. I want you to notice the brother's reaction to good news. He breaks the pattern. Your brother was lost and now is found, which is reason to be angry. The pattern falls apart. You see, the shepherd, he has 100 sheep. He loses one of those lambs. He goes out and looks for it until he finds it, and he brings that sheep back home. And he is so happy that he throws a party for all his friends. The sheep was lost, then it was found, which was reason to party. And there was a woman who had 10 silver coins, and she lost one of those coins. She was frantic. It was a valuable coin. She looked, she swept the floors until she finally found it. And when she found it, what did she do? She invited her friends. The coin was lost, then it was found, which was reason to party. There was a father who lost one of his sons. He went off and he took his daddy's heart with him. And then he returned. When he returned, the father threw a party. Lost, found, party. There was a brother who lost his kid brother. And then he was found. And it was reason for him to get angry because his father was celebrating. Lost, found, anger. Let's look at the introduction to this parable cluster in Luke 15:1 through 3. This is what started all the stories. All the tax collectors and sinners were approaching to listen to him, and the Pharisees and scribes were complaining. This man welcomes sinners, and he eats with them. So he, that is Jesus, told this parable. The tax collectors and sinners were lost, And then Jesus found them, which was reason for the Pharisees to be angry. See the pattern. Lost, found, anger. Lost, found, party. Lost, found, party. Lost, found, party. Lost, found, anger. Do you love God's grace? Has there been a time in your life when you've run to the fountain of grace? And as Toplady wrote, nothing in my hand I bring, simply to your cross I cling. When you've come to the cross and God's grace has rained down all over you. Don't you love that grace? How are you when that grace comes to someone else? Not you. Maybe even a brother or a friend who doesn't deserve it. I've always been a rule keeper. I've always tried to live by the rules. And have done a fairly good job in my life of doing so. But I've also been the kind of person that have noticed when other people haven't kept the rules. And I want them to be punished. How about you? Do you notice when other people don't do the right thing? How gracious are you to them? See, I've come to believe that grace is not just supposed to flow to me. It is supposed to flow through me. It is supposed to come to me and my sins be forgiven. And then I am to be forgiving of other people. It's not such a big deal to celebrate when something good happens to you. But it is huge when you can celebrate when something good happens to someone else. Even when it's your enemy. And I've come to believe that you or I, neither one, know a thing about grace until we can. Until we can celebrate God's grace flowing to someone else. Especially those who don't deserve it. Did you catch what I just said? To celebrate when God's grace flows to someone else, especially those who don't deserve it. Did you catch that? It's a bit ironic, isn't it, since grace means unmerited favor? You see, we really come to know God's grace when we understand I don't deserve it either. God is not just calling you to experience His grace. He is calling you to be gracious. To be a conduit of His grace to others. And I'm convinced that we are not going to convince people of the gospel by shouting and yelling and proving them they're wrong. We will convince people of the